Welcome to GridML. Today I'm going to take you on a short tour of the GridML XML Schema Viewer. The Schema Viewer is a tool that's designed to be used by business analysts, system analysts, and software developers to view and search XML schemas and other types of data models. This tool is optimized for the features that business analysts and developers commonly use. And even though there are other tools out there, such as XML Spy or XML Oxygen, that also allow you to create schemas or edit schemas, those tools are not optimized for the features that analysts and developers typically need. So let's get started. This is the main screen that shows up when you type in gridml.com, and it has tabs in here across the top of the screen that give you more information on the features. But what I'm going to do today is actually show you the features. So the way we get into that is we click the user sign in, which logs me into the GridML tool itself. And this brings up a screen asking me to set up the schemas. If I already had schemas set up, those would load. But since I don't have any loaded for this demonstration, I'm going to click Set Up Schemas. And this brings up a repository screen. On the top left, it shows my repositories. In other words, these are folders that I have already set up with schemas ready to go that I use. The next area below that shows repositories shared with me. And those are ones that if I'm an employee in a company, or in a standards group or some type of organization like that, and other people in that organization that have GridML want to share schemas with me, they can share them with me using that screen, and those would show up in this area. Below that is an area called Public Repositories, and these are just areas that GridML supplies that already have schemas loaded that are ready to use, and you can use any of those. But for this demonstration, I want to actually show you the process of how you set up a schema, and it's pretty easy. The first thing we do is click XML schema if that's the type of schema that we want to load. This screen has two sections. The top area of the screen is for more complex schemas where all the schema files are contained in a folder, and to use that one you simply drag the folder, and in this case I have a MISMO, which is the Mortgage Industry Standards Maintenance Organization, a mortgage industry schema, and I can simply drag that folder over in here, and it asks me to select the primary file for my schema. In this case I'm interested in the reference model, and there's MISMO 3.5.0 schema, so I'm going to select that as my main file. When I click Next, GridML checks to make sure that all the files that it needs are available and present, and all these green check marks mean that yes, they are available. So I'll click Add to Repository, and then GridML loads that file from my local hard drive to the GridML servers and stores them there. Now, schemas that I load myself to GridML are only available to me unless I decide to share them using this function up here. I can share them with other users, but nobody else that uses GridML will have access to those schemas unless I designate that I want to share them with a particular member of my company, an employee in my company, or a member of my standards group. So let's load another schema. I'm going to this folder here and area here indicates that the MISMO 3.5 schema is ready to load. I'm going to select the message element as my root element that I want to view. I could select any of these or more than one of these, but let's go ahead and load another schema. This time I'm going to use the bottom area because I'm loading a much simpler schema. So I'm going to click Browse, and that's going to bring up my window, and I'm going to select a demonstration folder. This is a fake mortgage company called Acme XML. I'm going to pick that one, click Next, And this schema has no dependencies, so it says it's ready to go. So I click Add to Repository. Now this Acme schema is being loaded to my repository in the GridML server, and I'm going to pick Acme XML as my root element for there. So I've selected two schemas that I want to view and search. So let's go into the View function. Click the View button at the top of the screen, and GridML loads both schemas. Actually, now what it's doing is it's changing the format, loading them into an internal format that GridML uses for really fast searching and viewing. So this is the main view screen. In the left-hand column, it will show the root element that I have selected, and same way with Acme XML. We had selected Acme XML as the root element to view, and I can click between these two tabs to compare the two. But let's stay in message for just a second, the Mizmo schema. The second column shows the children elements, or the elements that are contained within message, which is about versions, deal sets, document sets, and so on. The right-hand screen will always show the element that's highlighted, which in this case is message. It gives its full name and its definition from the schema file and information from the schema about the element, like the minimum number of occurrences, the maximum number of occurrences that are required. In other words, the conditionality for that element. If I select one of the children elements, deal sets, in the next column over, it shows me the children of that element, and then in the far right, since I have deal set selected, it shows me that element and its definition. So this allows us to go up and down the schema. I can select any of these. If I go deal, which represents a mortgage industry deal that's being transacted, these are the assets, collaterals, expenses, liabilities, loans, the parties related to that transaction, and so on. If I dig down into collaterals, say subject property, these are the elements under the subject property, its address, encumbrances, inspections, the market, the neighborhood, the project, and information about it. So this allows us to go up and down. I can select anything. If I select liabilities, here it'll show the liability detail. If I pick an item in here, the HELOC maximum balance amount, in the right-hand column, it shows the definition from that, from the schema, so on. So this is one of the functions of View. It allows us to browse the structure, get familiar with it. If I want to pick the Acme structure, this is a much simpler structure than the Mizmo structure. Here we have the loan file, which has children in it of asset, borrower, expense, liability, loans, services, subject property, and so on. If I pick loan and loan detail, here's individual data elements about the loan, the amortization type, the base loan amount, the base LTV ratio percent, and gives its definition of those. So in short, those are the view functions. Now let's move on to the same two schemas in here, but let's select the search function. And this is a function that especially analysts and developers will use a lot if they are not sure where something is located within the schema, but they need more information about it. They can select that. So let's type in construction. Now notice as I type in a name, as it's showing here the search results for the name as I've typed it in so far. It's found 80 matches so far, but if I continue typing and know what I want, construction status type. So notice here, if I type in the full name, it says, okay, within the Mizmo message schema, it's found two elements that contain that name. And let's look at Acme, because it's also searched the Acme one at the same time, and it's also found two elements with the same name in there. If I pick one of those elements, let's do it for Acme. If I click status type, it's saying, okay, under Acme XML, this appears one time. It's also in the loan file element one time. And if we keep going down, this shows the direct path of that element that we'd have to get to. From Acme XML, we'd have to go to the loan file, then select subject property, then select subject property detail, and construction status type. Now when we click on that, it gives us this right screen, just like in the view mode. It gives us information about it, gives the definition, more information about the schema. This says its minimum occurrence is 0 and its maximum occurrences is 1 within this area of the schema, which means it's basically an optional element. It also says that this is a enumerated type, and it gives the enumerated values that are allowed for construction status type. In other words, complete, existing, incomplete, new, less than 1 year, and so on. And then it also gives the element definitions for each of those. Some other tools like XML Spy, which developers and analysts commonly use, do not provide all of this information on one screen. You have to go to several screens to be able to get this information. Another common function that analysts and developers commonly do is create either implementation guides, mapping documents, or specification documents showing the relationship between, say in this case, between an external standard like the MISMO data standards and an internal data format like Acme XML. And that will typically take the form either of an Excel worksheet or a Word document or another application. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because, well, let's take Acme XML. This particular data point is located in the Acme XML loan file subject property path. And notice that as I click on each of these, the path is whatever I'm highlighted is shown down below in this area. Once I've selected the element that I want to use in my specification, I can bring up my worksheet. In this case, I've created a fake worksheet. I can go back in here and I can say copy the full XPath, bring up my spreadsheet again, right click on that and click paste, and it will paste the full XPath into the cell that I've selected. If I want to have the information about construction status type, I can then click copy the name, just the name only instead of the full XPath. In this case, I also want to say include the definition, and watch what happens when I do that. When I bring the spreadsheet back up, I can right click on the cell, click paste, and now it's pasted the name and the definition in here. Let's go back to the MISMO file. We've selected construction status type, and notice on here it shows that actually this data element is located in 480 places within the MISMO standard. So I need to identify, well, which path do I want? So I'm going to go down the deal set path under collaterals and under subject property and under property detail. Notice here, as I've selected each one under subject property, it said it's located in 4 locations under subject property, 3 of them under the project for the property, and 1 under property detail. In this case, let's say I'm interested in property detail. I'm going to select the property detail element, and notice down here is the path that for property detail. That's the full path all the way from message through all the child elements down to property detail. I'm going to say copy that full path. I'm going to go back to my worksheet, and here I'm going to select right click, then select paste, and now it's pasted the XPath. Let's do the same thing that we did before. Let's select the actual element that we want, construction status type, and let's say also include the definition, and copy the name, go back to my spreadsheet, right click on the cell I want to put it in, and we'll paste in both the name and its definition. So what I've given you is just a really quick overview of how to set up schemas within GridML, a limited view of some of the functions of both viewing and searching. And there are more videos on GridML in the Resources tab. There are more videos that go into more detail, giving a more complex look at the features available within those. So we hope you've enjoyed this. There's the short demonstration. If we go to the pricing tab, this gives information about the various models. There we have the basic free option, which has most of the functionality that you've seen here. It allows you to load a schema, to view it and search. And then the other options give you additional capabilities, and we hope you'll consider those. We think that once you have taken a look at what you can do with one schema, you will want to do, get more use out of it. So hope you've enjoyed this video. Thank you very much.